It killed Phar Lap, the Guangxu Emperor, and maybe even Napoleon Bonaparte. So why do we consume so much of it in our food? Arsenic is considered a carcinogen around the world, but until recently went largely unregulated. How do we recognise arsenic as a problem, and what does the future of rice production look like? Hello and welcome to In Focus. Arsenic is a natural and essential dietary element. It's pretty much everywhere, including everything we eat, but some foods manage to absorb it from the ground in much higher levels. Those include apples, leafy vegetables, grape juice, seafood, and of course, rice. There are two types of arsenic, organic and inorganic. The latter much more abundant and much more toxic. Seafood, for example, has plenty of organic arsenic, but it's nothing to worry about. The same can't be said for rice. Some say there are two sides to that little seed. It's the grain that feeds half the world, and it's the primary carcinogenic source of inorganic arsenic in our diet. Because it's uniquely grown in flooded conditions, it absorbs much more arsenic through the groundwater. Great for keeping out weeds and vermin, not so great for keeping out that metallic grey element known as AS. So, what's going on? Why isn't the FDA all over this? Well, they are. Kind of. They've been measuring total arsenic concentrations in food since 1991, and while they've ruled out any immediate or short-term risk, the jury is out on long-term exposure. For the European Food Safety Authority, though, the jury has well and truly delivered its verdict. A report published in 2009 titled Scientific Opinion on Arsenic in Food contained a stark warning. Exposure limit levels were far too high. The Contam panel noted that new data had established that inorganic arsenic causes cancer of the lung and urinary tract in addition to skin, and that a range of adverse effects had been reported at exposure levels lower than those reviewed by the JECFA. It went on to list the adverse effects associated with long-term exposure to arsenic. They included skin lesions, developmental toxicity, cardiovascular diseases, abnormal glucose metabolism, diabetes, and lung and bladder cancer. In conclusion, the summary ended with this. The Contam panel recommended that dietary exposure to inorganic arsenic should be reduced. The biggest worry, though, is consumption by children. Those under 5 generally eat around 3 times more food on a body weight basis than adults, giving them 3 times greater exposure to inorganic arsenic from the same food item. Babies are at a sensitive stage of development and are known to be more susceptible to inorganic arsenic than adults. With the effects of climate change already beginning to show, there's been a big emphasis on developing drought-resistant crops. An advantageous side effect of that method is that the arsenic exposure has plummeted when it comes to rice. We spoke to Herman Suermann from Mighty Rice. In Mauritius, we grow our rice on dry land, depending entirely on rainfall to water our crop. For every 1,000 tonnes of rice we produce, we currently save 3.5 billion litres of water. In 2014, when we began sales of Mighty Rice in the United States, the issue of concerning levels of arsenic being found in hundreds of rice and rice products in the US gained widespread media coverage. We felt it prudent to test our rice. Samples were sent to Dartmouth College, who are leading the study of the issue in the US. The result was undetectable. We never set out to grow arsenic-free rice. However, studies are showing that a major factor in arsenic absorption by rice plants is the use of flood irrigation. When the fields are flooded, this anaerobic environment is thought to encourage the release of any organic and inorganic arsenic from the soil, which is then readily absorbed by the rice. So there you have it. It seems an unintended byproduct of innovation is less arsenic in your rice. Is the future of rice products dependent on drought-resistant crops? Does water have a future in growing this staple? As Herman said, conventional irrigation requires up to 3,500 litres of water to produce just 1 kilogram of rice. The Earth's population continues to explode, as does rice consumption, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. That amount of water usage is unsustainable. Back to arsenic. Independently testing every item of food before packaging is unrealistic, and you're not going to drop dead if you eat another rice pudding. But until there is a better understanding of the risks, Limit your rice consumption to 3 times a week or source it from a company that places an emphasis on growing low arsenic crops. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.